The crystal towers of Nexus Prime gleamed under the light of 3 different suns. Inside the largest tower, beings from 12 different worlds sat around a massive table that floated in the center of the room. Each being looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of pure energy. But they all shared one thing: they were angry. Ambassador Zethkara stood up. She was tall and thin, with blue skin that shimmered like water. Her 4 eyes focused on the holographic display in the center of the table. The display showed a small yellow star with several planets orbiting around it. "Fellow council members," Zethkara began, her voice carrying across the room like music, "we are here to discuss the human problem." The other ambassadors nodded. They had been watching Earth for many years now. At first the humans seemed harmless. They had only recently learned to travel between stars. Their technology was simple compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy. But lately the humans had been causing trouble. "They have violated the sacred preservation zones," said Ambassador Krex, whose rocky body made grinding sounds when he moved. "No species is allowed to mine asteroids in those areas. The law is millions of years old. They have also been expanding too quickly," added Ambassador Yith, a being made of swirling gas who spoke through vibrations in the air. "In just 50 years they have built colonies on 12 different worlds. This breaks the slow expansion treaty." Zethkara touched a control and the holographic display changed. Now it showed human ships moving through space, human cities growing on distant planets, and human mining operations tearing apart asteroids. "But the worst crime," Zethkara continued, "is what they have done to their own star system. They have turned their asteroid belt into a weapon. Our scouts report that they have placed massive engines on thousands of asteroids. They could throw these rocks at any planet they choose." The room filled with angry sounds. Some ambassadors hissed, others roared, and a few made high-pitched whistling noises. No civilized species would ever weaponize their own star system. It was barbaric. "The humans must be stopped," declared Ambassador Vex, whose tentacles writhed with emotion. "They are too dangerous to be allowed to continue." "I agree," said Zethkara. "We will give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will destroy them completely." The vote was unanimous. All 12 species agreed to declare war on humanity. The message was sent immediately through the quantum communication network. It would reach every human device at the same time, no matter where in the galaxy it was. The message was simple but clear. "To the species called humanity, you have violated galactic law. You have expanded without permission. You have weaponized your star system. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Accept our rule, and we will allow you to live under strict supervision. Refuse, and we will eliminate every human in the galaxy. Choose wisely." On Earth, the message appeared on every screen at exactly the same moment. Television broadcasts stopped mid-sentence. Computer screens went dark, then displayed the alien text. Even the simple communication devices that people carried in their pockets began playing the message in perfect English. In the emergency meeting room deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, President Sarah Martinez stared at the message on her screen. Around the table sat the leaders of every major nation on Earth. For a moment, nobody spoke. "Well," said General Thompson, the old soldier who ran Earth's combined military forces, "I guess they finally noticed us." Prime Minister Chen from the Asian Federation laughed softly. 72 hours, that's generous." "Do we have everything ready?" asked President Martinez. "We've been ready for 20 years, replied General Thompson. "The question is whether they're ready for us." Outside the underground bunker, something strange was happening on Earth. When the alien message first appeared, people had been scared. Children cried, adults panicked, and news reporters spoke in worried voices about the end of humanity. But then something changed. The fear turned into something else. In New York City, an old man who had fought in 3 different wars read the message on his phone. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for something for a very long time. In Tokyo, factory workers looked at each other and nodded. They had been building commercial equipment for years. They knew what it really was. In Moscow, military cadets heard the news and began singing old battle songs. In every city, on every street, humans began to smile, not because they were happy about the war, but because they were finally going to have the fight they had been preparing for their entire lives. The news reporters noticed the change first. "There seems to be an unusual reaction from the public," said one reporter, standing in the middle of a crowd of smiling people. Instead of panic, we're seeing excitement? In the stock market, something incredible happened. Instead of crashing, the stocks of defense companies shot up so fast that trading computers couldn't keep up. People were investing in war like it was a party they had been invited to. Military recruitment centers that had been quiet for years suddenly had lines of people waiting to sign up. They weren't running from the fight. They were running toward it. The alien ambassadors watched all of this through their spy satellites. They saw the crowds of humans gathering in cities. They saw the thermal signatures of millions of people moving into underground facilities. They saw exactly what they expected to see, a scared species getting ready to hide. "Look how they panic," said Ambassador Krex with satisfaction. "They know they cannot win." "Those underground facilities must be shelters," added Ambassador Yith. "They think they can hide from our weapons." But down in those underground shelters, something very different was happening. Colonel Sarah Chen walked through endless corridors filled with soldiers, weapons, and spacecraft. These weren't refugee centers, they were the largest military bases ever built. "Final status report," she said to her aide. "All defense platforms are online and ready. The asteroid belt weapons are positioned. Our deep space fleet is moving into attack formation. And Colonel, the men are ready. They've been waiting for this their whole lives." Colonel Chen nodded. She looked at a screen showing the alien fleet gathering at the edge of the galaxy. Soon they would come to Earth expecting to find a frightened primitive species ready to surrender. Instead, they would find humanity doing what it did best, preparing for war with a smile. Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Zethkara received the final message from Earth. It was not a surrender. It was not a plea for mercy. It was not even a defiant speech about freedom. It was just 7 words. "We accept your declaration of war. See you soon." Zethkara stared at the message. There was something about those words that made her feel cold inside, but she pushed the feeling away. Humans were primitive. They would be easy to defeat. She had no idea that Earth had been waiting for this moment for over a century. She had no idea that every human industry, every human invention, every human dream had been focused on one single goal, being ready when the galaxy finally noticed them. The war was about to begin. And for the first time in their history, the humans were genuinely excited. The celebration on Nexus Prime lasted for 3 days. Representatives from all 12 galactic civilizations gathered to toast their easy victory over humanity. They drank exotic liquids from crystal cups and made speeches about bringing order to the galaxy. "The humans will surrender within a week," predicted Ambassador Krex, his rocky body glowing with satisfaction. "Our intelligence shows they are already hiding in underground shelters. Their technology is centuries behind ours," agreed Ambassador Yith. "We have studied their television signals. They still use chemical rockets and metal weapons. How can such primitives fight against us?" The aliens had indeed been watching Earth for many years. They had intercepted human television shows, music, movies, and news broadcasts. They knew about human wars, how humans fought each other with bullets and bombs. They had seen human suffering, human fear, human weakness. They thought they understood everything about humanity. They were completely wrong. What the aliens didn't know was that humans had been lying to them for over 100 years. It started in 2157, when Dr. Elena Martinez made the most important discovery in human history. She was working late in her laboratory when she detected something impossible: artificial signals coming from deep space. The signals were clearly from an advanced alien civilization. Dr. Martinez brought her discovery to the world's leaders. After months of secret meetings, they made a decision that would change everything. They would let the aliens watch Earth, but they would make sure the aliens only saw what humans wanted them to see. The plan was simple, but brilliant. Humans would continue to broadcast their old entertainment, their primitive technology, and their everyday problems to space. But their real work, their real technology, would be hidden from alien eyes. Every space launch that the aliens could see was labeled as scientific research or commercial activity. But in reality, humans were building the largest military force in galactic history. The aliens watched humans struggle to reach Mars and thought it was impressive for such a young species. They didn't know that humans had already built secret cities on 30 different worlds. The aliens saw human space stations and thought they were simple research facilities. They didn't know these stations were massive weapons platforms equipped with planet-killing weapons. The aliens watched humans slowly explore their solar system and thought it was cute how excited they got about finding water on distant moons. They didn't know that humans had turned every large asteroid into a guided missile. For 112 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment. Every human child was taught about the aliens watching from space. Every human adult worked toward the same goal, being ready when the aliens finally decided to make contact. And now that moment had arrived. Colonel Sarah Chen stood in the command center buried deep under the Rocky Mountains. Around her, hundreds of officers monitored screens showing the real state of human civilization. These screens showed the truth the aliens had never seen. "Status report on the outer colonies," she ordered. "All 37 colony worlds are ready for combat operations," replied Major Williams. "The aliens think we only have settlements on 12 worlds, but our hidden colonies have been building warships for decades." "What about the Deep Space Fleet?" Fleet Admiral Zhang reports all ships are in position. "The aliens count our visible ships and think we have maybe 1,000 vessels. They don't know about the 15,000 ships we've been hiding in dark space." Colonel Chen nodded. She looked at a screen showing intercepted alien communications. The aliens were congratulating each other on their coming victory. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "They think we're still fighting with metal bullets and chemical explosives," laughed Captain Rodriguez. "They've never seen our plasma cannons or antimatter bombs." "The best part," added Major Kim, "is that they think our asteroid mining operations are just commercial business. They have no idea we've turned the entire asteroid belt into the largest weapons system ever built." The aliens had made their biggest mistake when they studied human entertainment. They watched movies about human wars and thought they understood how humans fought. They saw soldiers using rifles and tanks and airplanes. They watched stories about human fear and human weakness. But human entertainment was just stories. The real humans, the humans who had spent over a century preparing for Galactic War, were something completely different. Dr. James Park, Earth's chief scientist, reviewed the final technical reports. "All our new technologies are ready," he announced. "The aliens know about our old rockets and metal ships. They've never seen our gravity drives, our energy shields, or our matter converters." The aliens thought they knew about human psychology too. They had watched human news reports about wars on Earth. They saw humans crying over casualties, protesting against violence, trying to make peace instead of fight. What they didn't understand was that humans had been fighting small wars among themselves for practice. Every conflict on Earth for the past century had been a training exercise. Humans had been learning, adapting, and preparing for the real war, the war against alien invasion. Commander Lisa Zhang reviewed the psychological profiles of human soldiers. "Our troops show no fear of the aliens," she reported. "In fact, morale has never been higher. The soldiers have been training their entire lives for this moment." The aliens intercepted human communications that seemed to show panic and confusion. They heard humans talking about how scared they were, how hopeless the situation seemed, how they just wanted to survive. They didn't know these communications were fake, designed to make the aliens overconfident. The real human communications were sent through quantum channels the aliens couldn't detect. On those secret channels, humans were sharing very different messages. Finally, a worthy opponent. "Time to show them what we're really made of. I've been waiting for this fight my whole life. Let's make this interesting." The aliens also misunderstood what they saw when humans gathered in underground facilities. They thought these were refugee shelters where frightened humans were hiding from the coming attack. In reality, these underground facilities were military staging areas, larger than entire alien cities. Humans weren't hiding. They were getting ready to launch the most coordinated military operation in galactic history. Admiral Chen reviewed the final attack plans. Phase 1 begins when the alien fleet enters our solar system. They'll expect to find scared humans hiding on Earth. Instead, they'll find the entire solar system has been turned into a trap. Phase 2 starts when we reveal our real fleet size. Let them think they're fighting 1,000 human ships. When 15,000 more ships appear, it should be quite a surprise. Phase 3 is when we show them our real technology. Let them try to fight gravity weapons and antimatter missiles with their old energy beams. The aliens continued their celebration, confident that the war would be over quickly. They sent messages to all their worlds announcing the coming victory over the primitive humans. They scheduled victory parades and planned how to divide up the human colonies among themselves. Some wanted to keep humans as pets, others wanted to study them, and a few wanted to eliminate them completely. None of them considered the possibility that they might lose. But in the deep space between stars, something was moving. Ships, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, were taking position around the alien home worlds. These ships had been traveling for decades, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The aliens thought the war would be fought around Earth. They were wrong about that too. When the real fighting started, every alien world would discover that the humans had already arrived. The alien fleet was magnificent. 10,000 warships from 12 different civilizations moved through space like a silver river of death. Each ship was the size of a human city, equipped with weapons that could crack planets in half. Their shields had never been broken. Their crews had conquered hundreds of worlds. Admiral Rexus stood on the command bridge of the flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Victory. He was a proud warrior from the Krex Empire, his rocky body glowing with confidence. Around him, officers from all 12 species worked together with perfect coordination. "Report," Admiral Rexus commanded, his voice rumbling like an earthquake. "We are approaching the outer edge of the human solar system," replied Commander Yeath, the gas being who served as navigation officer. "All ships are in perfect formation. Weapons are charged and ready." "What about the humans?" asked Admiral Rexus. "Our scouts report exactly what we expected," answered Intelligence Officer Vex, her tentacles writhing as she read the data. "The human ships are old and slow. We count approximately 1,000 vessels, mostly small patrol craft. They appear to be trying to evacuate their colonies." Admiral Rexus smiled, showing teeth made of crystal. 1,000 primitive ships against our 10,000 advanced warships. This will not be a battle. It will be an execution. The alien fleet moved past the orbit of Pluto, the small dwarf planet at the edge of the human solar system. Admiral Rexus decided to send a message to the humans, a demonstration of alien power that would make them surrender immediately. "Target the 9th planet," he ordered. "Full power." The flagship's main weapon charged with energy. The beam that shot out was brighter than a star and hot enough to melt metal from 1,000,000 kilometers away. It struck Pluto and the entire planet simply disappeared, turned into expanding gas and dust. "Send this message to the humans," Admiral Rexus said. "Surrender now, or every human world will share the same fate." The response came back immediately through the quantum communication system. It was not a surrender. It was not even a threat. It was just one sentence that made Admiral Rexus feel strangely uncomfortable. "Thank you for finally coming. We've been so very bored." Before Admiral Rexus could think about what those words meant, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. "Sir!" shouted the sensor officer. "New contacts appearing on the edge of our detection range." The main screen lit up with thousands of new signals. Ships were emerging from behind asteroids, from the shadows of moons, from the dark spaces between planets where nothing should exist. "How many?" demanded Admiral Rexus. I can't get an accurate count, sir. The numbers keep changing. At least 5,000. No, 10,000, sir. There might be 15,000 human vessels out there." Admiral Rexus stared at the screen. This was impossible. Their intelligence clearly showed that humans only had 1,000 ships. Where had all these vessels come from? They must be using some kind of sensor trick, he decided. Simple illusions to make their small fleet look bigger. Prepare to attack. But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, strange things began happening. The first sign of trouble came when alien ships started exploding for no apparent reason. "What's happening to Battle Group 7? Admiral Rexus demanded as 12 alien vessels simply vanished from his screens. "Sir, they appear to have been rammed," reported the tactical officer with confusion in his voice. "Something hit them at nearly the speed of light." "Impossible. Nothing can move that fast and still have mass." "Sir, I'm detecting more impacts. Battle Groups 4 and 9 are under attack by asteroids, sir. Large asteroids moving at tremendous speed." Admiral Rexus looked at the tactical display and felt his first moment of real worry. The humans had somehow turned their asteroid belt into a weapon. Thousands of large rocks were flying through space with perfect accuracy, each one guided like a missile and moving fast enough to punch through alien shields. How are they controlling so many projectiles at once? He wondered aloud. His answer came when the first human ships engaged the alien fleet directly. These weren't the slow, primitive vessels the aliens expected. They moved like living things, dancing through space with impossible grace. Their weapons were unlike anything in the galactic database. Instead of energy beams or particle cannons, the human ships fired streams of something that looked like liquid lightning. When these weapons hit alien ships, the shields didn't just fail. They exploded, turning the ship's own defensive systems into weapons against itself. "Report!" Admiral Rexus shouted as more ships disappeared from his fleet. "The human weapons appear to convert our shield energy into plasma bombs," the science officer reported with disbelief. They're using our own defenses to destroy us. That's impossible. No species has ever developed technology like that. But impossible things kept happening. Human ships that were cut in half by alien weapons didn't die. They split into dozens of smaller fighters, each one as dangerous as the original vessel. Human pilots who should have been killed by acceleration forces that would crush any known species instead seemed to be enjoying themselves. The alien fleet intercepted human communications during the battle, and what they heard made no sense. This is Red Squadron engaging 3 enemy cruisers. Anyone want to make this interesting? Blue Leader here, I've got 5 bogeys on my tail. Somebody want to help, or should I handle this myself? Gold Squadron reporting. We just lost Johnson, but he took 12 aliens with him. He's buying drinks for everyone when we get home. The aliens realized that the humans were joking during combat. They were treating the battle like a game. How can they be so calm? Admiral Rexus asked. They're facing extinction. Sir, replied Commander Yith quietly. I don't think they're calm. I think they're happy. The battle continued for hours, but it wasn't going the way Admiral Rexus had expected. His fleet of 10,000 ships was being torn apart by human forces that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Human vessels appeared out of empty space, attacked with devastating efficiency, and vanished before the aliens could respond. The humans weren't fighting like any species the galaxy had ever seen. They weren't trying to minimize casualties or preserve their ships. They were fighting like predators who had found the perfect prey. A human ship rammed straight into the side of an alien cruiser, destroying both vessels. The alien crew died, in confusion and terror. The human crew died laughing and singing battle songs. Sir, the communications officer reported with fear in his voice. I'm intercepting a human transmission from their command ship. Put it on the main screen. The face that appeared was that of Fleet Admiral Zhang, an elderly human with scars on his face and fire in his eyes. Behind him, human officers worked calmly at their stations while explosions lit up space outside their windows. Alien Commander, Admiral Zhang said with a smile that made Admiral Rexus's crystal teeth ache. I want to thank you for this wonderful opportunity. My people have been preparing for this fight for over a century. We've built our entire civilization around becoming the perfect warriors. And now you've given us the chance to prove ourselves against worthy opponents. Admiral Rexus found his voice. You're outnumbered. You cannot win. Admiral Zhang's smile grew wider. Win? My friend, you don't understand. We're not trying to win. We're trying to have the best fight of our lives. And so far you're giving us exactly what we wanted. The transmission ended, and Admiral Rexus realized something terrible. The humans weren't fighting for their survival. They were fighting for the joy of combat itself. More reports flooded in from across the solar system. Human colonies that should have been evacuating were instead launching their own attacks on alien forces. Human civilians were volunteering for dangerous missions. Human children were singing war songs in their shelters. Sir, whispered Commander Yith, what kind of species did we just declare war on? Admiral Rexus didn't answer. He was too busy, watching his magnificent fleet being destroyed by a species that treated war like a holiday celebration. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in their recorded history. Representatives from 12 civilizations gathered in the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, but this time their voices were filled with fear instead of confidence. How many ships have we lost? Demanded Ambassador Zethkara, her blue skin pale with shock. Over 3,000 in the first day alone, replied General Vorthak, the military commander of the combined galactic forces. The humans they're not fighting the way any civilized species should fight. What do you mean? Asked Ambassador Krex, his rocky body dim with worry. General Vorthak activated a holographic display showing the battle around Earth's solar system. Watch this recording from Admiral Rexus's flagship. The council watched in horrified silence as human ships performed impossible maneuvers, ramming alien vessels at near light speed, splitting into multiple fighters when damaged, and using weapons that turned alien defenses against themselves. They're not trying to preserve their forces, General Vorthak explained. They're not fighting strategically. They're fighting like they enjoy it. Ambassador Yith, made of swirling gas, spoke with a voice full of confusion. We intercepted their communications during battle. They were laughing, singing, making jokes while their ships exploded around them. That's impossible, said Ambassador Vex. No intelligent species behaves that way during combat. Fear is a survival mechanism. It keeps creatures alive. Apparently not humans, replied General Vorthak grimly. We captured several human prisoners during the battle. When we interrogated them, they thanked us for giving them such an exciting fight. One of them asked if we had any harder challenges. The council fell silent. This was beyond their understanding. Dr. Kithara, the galaxy's leading expert on species psychology, had spent days analyzing human behavior. She stood up slowly, her insect-like body clicking nervously. I have studied every species in the galaxy, she began. All advanced civilizations follow the same pattern. They develop intelligence to survive better. They create technology to live more safely. They evolve beyond their violent instincts because violence is inefficient. She paused, looking at each council member. Humans are different. They never evolved past their predator instincts. Instead, they refined them. They didn't develop technology to live safely. They developed it to fight better. They didn't abandon violence. They perfected it. But surely, interrupted Ambassador Zethkara, they must fight for some reason. Territory, resources, survival. Dr. Kithara shook her head. That's what I thought too. But after studying their communications and behavior, I've reached a disturbing conclusion. Humans don't fight for any practical reason. They fight because they love fighting itself. She activated another display showing human settlements across the galaxy. Look at their history. Every major advancement in human technology came from warfare. Their medicine advanced to heal wounded soldiers. Their engineering improved to build better weapons. Their space technology developed to carry war to other worlds. While our species saw war as a necessary evil to be avoided, humans saw it as the driving force of progress. They turned conflict into their greatest source of innovation. The council members looked at each other with growing horror. Are you saying, Ambassador Krex asked slowly, that we just declared war on a species that considers war to be fun? Not just fun, Dr. Kithara replied. War is how they measure themselves. It's how they find meaning in life. It's how they determine their worth as individuals and as a species. General Vorthak brought up more battle footage. This explains their tactics. They're not trying to win quickly or efficiently. They're trying to make the fight as challenging as possible for themselves. The recording showed human pilots deliberately taking on impossible odds, human ships using the most dangerous attack patterns, human commanders making their battles harder by refusing overwhelming advantages. Watch this, General Vorthak said, highlighting one engagement. A single human fighter could have destroyed that alien transport easily. Instead, the pilot circled it 3 times, giving the transport chances to fight back, before finally attacking. The human was playing with its prey. Ambassador Vex's tentacles writhed with disgust. They're treating us like entertainment. It's worse than that, Dr. Kithara continued. I analyzed their psychological profiles. Humans become depressed during peacetime. Their suicide rates go up. Their society becomes restless and unstable. They need conflict to be psychologically healthy. She showed charts and graphs depicting human behavior patterns. For the past century, while they were preparing for our arrival, human society was the most stable it had ever been. Everyone had a purpose, getting ready for galactic war. Crime rates dropped. Mental illness decreased. They were the happiest they had ever been as a species. Because they knew a fight was coming, whispered Ambassador Yith. Exactly. And now, that the fight has arrived, they're experiencing what they consider the best moment in their species' history. The council sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. We thought we were threatening them with extinction, Ambassador Zethkara said quietly. But we were actually giving them what they wanted most. General Vorthak brought up intelligence reports from across the galaxy. It gets worse. While we were focused on their main fleet, they've been revealing hidden forces throughout our territory. Every major alien world has human ships nearby, ships that have been hiding there for decades. The display showed human vessels emerging from asteroid fields, from the dark sides of moons, from deep space locations where they had been waiting patiently for years. They didn't just prepare to defend themselves, General Vorthak explained. They prepared to attack us. Every human colony, every human mining operation, every human trading post was actually a military base in disguise. How many humans are there, really? Asked Ambassador Krex. We don't know. Our estimates were based on their visible colonies and broadcasts. But those were apparently all fake. Their real population could be 10 times larger than we calculated. Dr. Kithara activated one final display, a psychological analysis of human leadership. I studied their command structure. Every human leader, from ship captains to planetary governors, shows the same psychological pattern. They're not afraid of death. They're afraid of boring death. What does that mean? They would rather die fighting impossible odds than live safely in peace. They consider a death in glorious battle to be the highest honor their species can achieve. The council chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the crystal walls. Finally, Ambassador Zeth Kara spoke. "We made a terrible mistake." "What do we do now?" asked Ambassador Vex. General Vorthak looked at his tactical reports. "Admiral Rexus is requesting reinforcements. He says the human fleet is not just fighting our ships, they're hunting them. Human vessels are tracking down individual alien ships across multiple star systems. They're not satisfied with just defending their territory," Dr. Cathara added. "Now that they know we exist, they want to test themselves against every challenge we can provide." Ambassador Krex's rocky body glowed with fear. "We created our own worst nightmare. We found the one species in the galaxy that was hoping someone would declare war on them. And now," whispered Ambassador Yith, "they're coming for all of us." Outside the council chambers, alien worlds were receiving their first visits from human diplomats, ships full of warriors who smiled when they explained the new reality to their former enemies. 6 months later, the galaxy was a very different place. The crystal halls of Nexus Prime still gleamed under 3 suns, but now they hosted a different kind of meeting. The Galactic Council chamber had been expanded to include a 13th seat, and the being who sat there wore the simple black uniform of Earth's Solar Navy. Ambassador Sarah Chen looked around the table at her fellow council members. Some still had bandages from recent battles. Others wore the honored scars that human culture had taught them to display with pride. All of them looked different than they had 6 months ago. Stronger, more alert, more alive. The quarterly combat exercises are showing excellent results, Ambassador Chen reported to the council. Participation from all member species is at 100%. Ambassador Zeth Kara, whose blue skin now had a healthy glow it had lacked for centuries, nodded eagerly. "The Hegemony fleet has improved their response time by 60% since we began training with human instructors. The Krex Empire reports similar improvements," added Ambassador Krex, whose rocky body now sparkled with energy crystals that only formed during periods of intense physical challenge. "Our warriors had forgotten what it felt like to truly test themselves." Ambassador Chen smiled. It was not the predatory smile that had terrified the galaxy 6 months ago. It was the satisfied smile of someone whose hard work had paid off. The war had ended not with surrender or destruction, but with something nobody had expected: mutual improvement. It started when the aliens finally understood what they were fighting. After Dr. Cathara's report about human psychology, some of the more intelligent alien commanders began to experiment. Instead of trying to fight humans the traditional way, they began to fight the human way. The first breakthrough came from Commander Yith of the gas-being species. Instead of using standard formation flying, she ordered her pilots to try the wild, dangerous maneuvers they had seen human fighters perform. To everyone's surprise, it worked. The gas beings discovered they were naturally suited to 3-dimensional combat. Their ships began scoring victories against human forces for the first time. More importantly, Commander Yith's pilots reported something they hadn't felt in thousands of years: excitement. They were having fun. The discovery spread through the Ivy alien fleets like wildfire. Species that had fought the same way for millions of years began experimenting with new tactics, new strategies, new ways of thinking about combat. The humans responded by fighting even harder, pushing themselves to new limits to stay ahead of their improving opponents. Instead of ending the war, the alien improvement made it more intense. But something strange happened. As both sides fought harder and became more skilled, they began to respect each other. The humans appreciated opponents who could finally challenge them. The aliens appreciated the humans for showing them capabilities they never knew they had. The turning point came during the Battle of Vega 7. Admiral Zhang's fleet was engaged in a massive fight with Admiral Rexus's forces, when a third party attacked, pirates from outside the galaxy who saw the war as an opportunity to raid both sides. Without hesitation, human and alien ships turned to fight side by side against the common enemy. When the pirates were defeated, both fleets simply returned to their previous battle as if nothing had happened. "Did we just help each other fight other people so we could go back to fighting each other?" Admiral Rexus asked over the communication channel. "Seems like it," Admiral Zhang replied. "Good teamwork, by the way." "Thank you, I've learned a lot from watching your tactics." "Same here. Want to continue our fight tomorrow? My crews need some rest." "Agreed. Same time, same coordinates?" It's a date. That conversation, recorded and broadcast across both fleets, changed everything. The war wasn't about destroying each other anymore. It was about making each other stronger. Within weeks, human and alien commanders were sharing tactical innovations, comparing battle techniques, and even exchanging crews for cross-training exercises. The galaxy's first interspecies military academy was established on a neutral moon. The transformation wasn't limited to military forces. Human engineers shared their advanced technology with alien scientists, who combined it with their own ancient knowledge to create innovations neither species could have developed alone. Human medicine, refined by centuries of treating battle wounds, revolutionized alien healthcare. Alien energy technologies, perfected over millions of years, gave humans access to power sources they had only dreamed of. But the biggest change was psychological. The alien species that had grown stagnant during millions of years of peace were suddenly alive with purpose and energy. They had challenges to overcome, skills to master, achievements to unlock. Ambassador Chen looked at the report from the Exploration Division. The Deep Space Expedition has made contact with 17 new species in the Andromeda region. 3 of them have agreed to join our combat training program. What about the other 14? Asked Ambassador Vex, whose tentacles now moved with the controlled precision of a trained warrior. 12 of them declined contact after observing our training exercises. Ambassador Chen replied with a grin. They called us dangerously insane. And the 14th? They declared war on us immediately. Admiral Martinez is taking the 3rd Fleet to go have a conversation with them. The council members nodded approvingly. The galaxy had learned to recognize the difference between species that could be reasoned with and species that could only be understood through combat. Current status of the improvement projects? Ambassador Chen asked. Ambassador Yith, whose gaseous form now swirled, with patterns that hadn't been seen in her species for a million years, answered proudly. All member worlds report increased productivity, decreased crime, and improved mental health. Turns out most of our species were just bored. The improvement projects were humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Understanding that most species needed challenges to thrive, humans had designed a system of competitive cooperation. Worlds competed in everything from technological innovation to artistic achievement to military readiness. Instead of the stagnant peace that had dominated the galaxy for eons, every species now had goals to achieve, rivals to surpass, and accomplishments to celebrate. The annual interspecies games are attracting participants from 87 different worlds, reported Ambassador Krex. The combat sports divisions are particularly popular. The games had grown from simple military exercises to a galaxy-wide celebration of achievement and competition. Species that had never spoken to each other were now traveling across the galaxy to test their skills against new opponents. Any problems to report? Ambassador Chen asked. The usual complaints, replied Ambassador Zethkara. The peaceful cooperation movement is still protesting our new policies. They want to return to the old ways. How many members do they have now? About 40 individuals spread across 12 worlds, down from last month. Ambassador Chen nodded. There would always be some who preferred the old galaxy of empty peace to the new galaxy of meaningful struggle, but they were a tiny minority. The vast majority of galactic citizens had discovered what humans had always known, that life without challenge was not life at all, but merely existence. One more item, Ambassador Chen said, looking at her notes. The research teams have identified several potentially hostile species in nearby galaxies. The science division wants to know if we should make contact. The council members looked at each other with expressions their ancestors would not have recognized. Where once there would have been fear or caution, now there was anticipation. Send a message to Fleet Command, decided Ambassador Zethkara. Tell them to prepare for extended operations. We have new friends to make. Ambassador Chen stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. Outside the council chambers, the galaxy's newest starships were preparing for their next mission, carrying the gift of meaningful conflict to species that didn't yet know they needed it. The war that was supposed to destroy humanity had instead created something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization based not on avoiding challenges, but on seeking them out and growing stronger through them. As Ambassador Chen walked to her ship, she thought about the message humanity had sent to the galaxy 6 months ago. We accept your declaration of war. See you soon. The galaxy had finally understood what those words really meant. Not a threat of violence, but an invitation to become something better than they had ever been before. And now, as human and alien ships flew side by side toward new adventures. The galaxy smiled like it was finally time to live instead of just survive.